Who is your Elizabeth? Who is your Mary? The story comes out of World War II. The soldiers were in a foreign city, a little town, and they were used to going to Mass, but there was no Mass available that they could find anywhere near where they were stationed. And so they walked into the town early that morning, looking for perhaps a Mass somewhere in that village. And as they're walking, they walk past this old stone building, and above the door it just says Queen Anne's Orphanage. And as they're passing, the front door opens, and an older lady walks out to get something from the porch to bring in, and she sees the soldiers there. And she said, "If you have a minute, would you come in and help?" And so they were glad to oblige. They went in to see how they could help her. And the kids were gathered around a very bare tree, and there were really no gifts there at all. And so most of the kids were very excited to see them, and they started giving out anything they had in their pockets, little gifts, keys, gum, anything they had. And one of the soldiers spotted this little guy kind of over to the side against the wall, and he made his way over to him, and he said, "Young buddy, what would you like for Christmas this year? What would you wish for Christmas?" And he said, I just wish somebody would hold me." And so the soldier did. He held him for a very long time. That little guy got what he wished for. The soldier got way more than he even wished for. This scene in the gospel this morning is so like that in so many ways. Perhaps it's among the most touching scenes in the whole scripture, actually. Here's Mary, young Mary, teenage Mary, very beaten up by life. Not only life all around her, but also at this point in her own pregnancy, just beat up. All around her, that includes the response of Mary's neighbors to her unwed pregnancy. She was a victim of so much gossip. So many people were saying so many things about what had happened to her. The biggest rumor running through the village seems to have been that she had been raped by a Roman occupying soldier. And that's how she got pregnant. That's the kind of garbage she was dealing with. She was a victim of people's gossip, people's idle speculation, forgetting there's a human being with a human heart on the other end of their words. She was looked down on by her neighbors, and she suffered deeply the harshness of people's judgments. And she had her own fears, the anxious nights. She had to convince Joseph first, this guy she loved more than anybody in the world. She had to convince him. And then she tries to convince everybody else who just perhaps say, "Yeah, right, Mary," and turn, and as soon as she's gone, say many other things. Her name was profaned, her reputation was tarnished, her heart was broken. This wasn't what she expected her first pregnancy to look like. This is utter vulnerability by any definition. That's how she's beat up by life all around her, but she's also beat up by what's going on in her own body. Ask any pregnant woman here this morning. Ask any woman ever in the midst of their pregnancy the toll that it takes on her body, her sleep, her psyche. And even though there's so much hope and so much expectation, there's so much pain and sickness even sometimes. So Mary's feeling pretty beat up. And she needs something. A break of some kind from this relentless junk. She needs to escape the verbal and the silent abuse coming from all sides towards her. And so it occurs to her, But there's somebody she really, really knows loves her. She really knows her cousin Elizabeth loves her dearly, even as a friend. She just needed somebody to talk to, you know? She just needed somebody to be with who maybe wouldn't even make her talk, but would just celebrate her when nobody else seemed to be. And just let her be broken. Just broken this time. Somebody who would be excited to see her when so many were not. Perhaps Elizabeth, on her part, got wind in the family that Mary was struggling. Perhaps she invited Mary. That's how it all began. Come visit, Mary. Let's hang out. Elizabeth couldn't come to Mary, you see, because her pregnancy was extremely precarious. She was of advanced age, and her pregnancy could go forward or go backwards as her life could at any moment. So Mary makes her way to Elizabeth because she knew that there she would be loved. There would be somebody in this world who would just really be excited to see her. And loved she was. Loved she was from the minute she got to the door. When everybody else is abusing her and making fun of her and talking trash about her, here's this woman, friend, cousin who opens the door and says, no matter what anybody says about you, you are so good. Mary, you are so good. Blessed are you among women. Blessed are you. You are so full of grace. Do you know how good you are? Somebody saw it in her. This deep, deep goodness that nobody else could see. Somebody saw it inside of her. And hospitality happened. Elizabeth grabbed her, held her, and said, I'm so glad you're here. And Mary let herself be received. Mary let herself be loved. I think back to junior, senior in undergrad a while back, a couple years back. And he would come every Tuesday afternoon to the CSC around 4 o'clock. Every Tuesday he would stop in. And one time I said, why do you keep coming by every Tuesday at 4? You could make an appointment, you know. And he just said, because I know that there are people here who will light up when they see me. That's why Mary went to Elizabeth. She knew Elizabeth would light up when she saw her. We all need people like that, don't we? My friends, would that we all had somebody in this world we could turn to when life seems to be beating us up. Someone whose face we trust would light up when they see us, and they'd put down their pen, and they'd put down their shovel, and they'd just welcome us. And they'd open the door, and they would embrace us. And when everybody else seems to be mad at us, or somehow disappointed in us, or the gossip is going around about this or that about us, would that we had somebody who we could go to, that no matter how many other people out there made us feel bad about ourselves, they would somehow manage, even with just their eyes, make us feel really good about ourselves. Sometimes when we're just exhausted, would that we had an Elizabeth who would be excited to see us, who would open their arms to us, and who would say, welcome. Welcome to my house. Welcome to my heart. You know, it's what marriage was meant to be, if it could at all be that. Someone to go home to at night who would be like that for us, who would shine even though they just saw us the night before. It's what deep friendship, what any good friendship is really meant to be about. The spark never going out in the other's eyes. Someone we know we could go to who will always be glad to receive us. Maybe this Christmas, as we move through the family gatherings, the neighborhood gatherings, the work gatherings, maybe we could keep an eye out for the Marys around us. And maybe we could be like Elizabeth for them this year. That we can look around those gatherings at perhaps the one who seems to be the most beat up right now and the most vulnerable, and just make a home for them right here first. Open the doors of our homes, but also open the doors to our hearts to them. Light up. Show interest. Give them a big old hug. And mean it. Is there anybody you light up for when you see them, even if you just saw them yesterday? If we have that kind of friend, like an Elizabeth in our lives, I propose this Christmas that you get down on your knees in gratitude. It's a remarkable gift. That Elizabeth is your gift from God, and a great grace. And if you do not have an Elizabeth, then now's the time, this Christmas, to begin to build perhaps that kind of a relationship with people who you trust could celebrate you. That you let people know you enough that the spark of recognition will happen for them. That you find someone who you can begin to trust, so that when you need to trust them, you have a place to go. They're out there. And if we open our hearts to them in trust and begin to develop those kinds of friendships now, they will be there on those days when it's our greatest wish that somebody would just hold us.